Dambai John de Java Dajamba Yanda Bazavet Rebada Jazo Damba Dewa Java Chiden Gamba Kivotu. I'll be taking off in a moment.
Tomba Sanje Jumdende
Pagawa Jaga Dubala Chazalo Chodo Josu Chio Tamba Chomdende Diji Shabata Chomba Yanda Bazobe Rebada Jazo Demba Dewa Java Chiden
Kamba
Kiva Deve Kalo Kiva Lana Mepa Lada Menangetum Chomdende Pagawa Jaga Dubala Chazalo Chodo
Chodo Josu
Chio
Chio
Tamba Chomdende Diji Shabata Chomba Yanda
Sanje
Dawa Jaba
Jiten
Jiten
Kamba
Gamba
Kevundu
Givodu
Kalo
Kalo
Lana
Givala
Mepa
Kada
Lada
Minange
Minangi
Dumba
Tomba
Sange
Sanje
Chomdende Pagawa
Shaja Tuvala
Chazalo
Chazalo
Jodo
Chodo
Yat
Josu
Chiewa Kanze Kanye So Kyotam Se Sachin Til Tumbo Ne Ngani Jiten Dina Choche Son Deze Keba Chazalo Namda Kunga Chotu Zuzam Ishi Gazo Sege Lumbota Taba Jiten Sumna Lame Kombo Joni Gyola Cha Selo Sencho Temba Time Tawe Sedo Drawa Gyola Cha Selo Tute Kyuta Sipa Sumach Nyame Genjen Gyola Cha Selo Kombo Tuje Chedem Tamche Gembe Tambabo Sana Yendin Gazo Teji Jala Cha Selo Tabe De Jatawa Gyo Keve Ngetson Letu Chidu Dunda Jogyo Ba Shigyo Cha Selo Tene Tewe Lamyan Tene Raba Dala Ratu Shinge Damba Yenden Gindun Layan Cha Selo Tipa Chia Mija Kewa Peza Zoba Rangi Semni Yonzu Du Dini Sange Temba Kamara De Mamedan Yuva Seba Chubu Milan Lodan Tindabu Tuje Chenan Titat Sunandi Tanji Zibun Nadan Chive Latube Sibe Sole Dowa Sho. I prostrate to the three noble rare sublime ones. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vachas Mount Rajagriha together with a great community of monks and a great community Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the category phenomena of profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasa Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom. He had those five aggregates also as empty of inherent. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva Mahasaya Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the venerable Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this correctly and repeat it, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherently. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form is. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors and consciousness are Shariputra, likewise all phenomena are emptiness without characteristics. And that's not without stain or deficient of a Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and so there is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging. There is no suffering, no origination, cessation, and exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of no. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awakened, unsurpassable, perfect, complete, enlightened, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared Tayata Om Kati Kat Para Kati Para Sangati Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commended the Bodhis Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshwaras. Was it? It is like that one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharitati Putra, the Bodhis Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of the Suras and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by Bhagavan. Kange tenjin dawa chon kapa mepa kemepa sheba mepa ta mepa wonwa mepa to mepa tade deme tenji mi trapa nyeshi shitempa sobe zange manangi tamba tela chaselo nyente shiwa suna kushe nije jize kanyin da Trola Pimba Chenam Chenyi Chiten Dendru Zeba Kam Kanda Yanda Dembe Tuna Namba Kunde Natso Tisum Chanchu Sembe Soje Sangi Kini Yumdala Chaselo
Sanje Chodan Soje Chonan La Chanchu Pardu Kyabsu Che Dagi Jenso Jebe Tsononji Rola Penje Sanje Nubara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonan La Chanchu Pardu Dane Kyabsu Che Dagi Jenso Jebe Tsononji Rola Penje Sanje Nubara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonan La Chanchu Pardu Dane Kyabsu Che Dagi Jenso Jebe Tsononji Rola Penje Sanje Nubara Sho Kange Duze Nyesune Dawa Dunje Bambeje Tambe Chune Dunje Kodam Del Chacelo that Kazan Gazeti Tetsi Seshe Cheguyo Drasamarichidu. Dini Kapsu Ripa Kanshi Dada Shenli Kyawa Rimish. Rig the Tanya to ya Rimimbe. kyuki kyawa kangi imbar yu sine tuyan tamba kyawa mikiwa tawati kaza tingi kausu titigara rwa tingi kausu o tati kari sungudu sana ane rangi tsingi tat chumda rangyuba menchegi ome rangi tsingi yuebe rubje tala ane tashi kanrungle kege duwaas 제제 다 시기 요지 때도 가장 로차르 다 배나 치료받다 보지 아니 랑치니 예베 주제라 달리게도 와스 다게 장전박 다게 다 남바 랑델야 아니 다 다게 다니가 다 주멜 겨와도 되게 요마르데 다 셴레 겨와 신게 랑치니 주베 규션라 랑치니 주부 셴 겨와도 누구 옆에 찾니 신경 누구 옆에 찾니 다 안에 랑칭이 주제래야 다시 가로를 깨게 도와서 라위인데 다 다시 가로를 깨야 돼 된다 좀더 마세 타녀 두야 누구 말했어 타녀 두야 리면 누구 말했어 좋아 근데 찍대 가리는 거 Denya kapsa riba kanshi dadansha rigde tanya tuya rimimbe kiki kyo rigde tanya tuya rimimbes o tisde da ti sayindu shenge tanya tuya ndugu maresini jik sunguduwa da teli ya ene seshe nga tarin karchaya yinsina jidandi tsame kengi yugire ina ya toba sacho ure bena sabayon di gyu shen riba ribu di gyu tele shen riba di inza gyu shen sabayon le ene 사변 코란에 신주지 깨야지 탄규 누구 매be 임번었으나 된 누구를 봤어 사변에 랑에 신배규 사변에 아니 누구지 깨야지 누구를 봤어 다 아니 단대디 신제 탄에 되는 아니 누구 말에 시비 신제디 가르었으나 랑 친이 주배 아니 귤에 누구시 탄에 되는 누구 말했어 다 들리야
I wanted to clarify something that I was talking about yesterday. It was on the in the area of the what you call the absurd consequence that it would not be possible to negate ultimate production. So to clarify that, what I want to say is that for the everybody apart from all the other philosophical systems, apart from the Prasangika, so the Swatantrika downwards, including the non-Buddhist systems, they would say that there is existence from its own side, there is production from its own side, because there is production from one or the other of the four extremes, they would say. So, for example, in the case of the non-Buddhist systems, they would say it's because there is production from self. That would be in the case of the Dangzhenpa, so the Samkhyas. In our own systems, the Buddhist philosophical systems, we wouldn't the production from self, production from both self and others, production without causes, those are not accepted, but there are Buddhist philosophical systems which accept that there is production from self. They would say that things are produced inherently because they're produced from self. So now they would say, so they would say there's no, so then the Prasangikas would say, so they say that you have to, when like the Swatantrikas, they would say that when you refute production from others, because that's what it says in the teachings, no production from any of the four extremes, so there's no production from other. They say you have to add on ultimately, there's no production from other ultimately, because they do accept that there is production from other. Okay, so in the Prasangika system, however, it's not just that there's no production from other ultimately, there's also no production from other conventionally. So that's what they say, right? So to clarify, so the point I wanted to clarify, even though I'm sure there are many of you that already understand this point. So the question might come up, it would quite reasonably come up, well, surely the Prasangikas do accept production from other, because they accept that when a sprout is produced from a seed, the seed is other than the sprout. The sprout is other than the seed. So surely they do accept production from other. So that is true. They do accept that, but that's not what production from other means. Production from other means an inherently existing result being produced from an inherently existing cause. And that's something which the Prasangikas would not accept, even conventionally. And that's why they don't accept production from other, even conventionally. No.
That Chetamje and Rangsinigi and Matubalia, Dujeriba Tikone, Ribashi, Sungudua, that one you to the Karinsna, that Mingatanya won the Shatsami, Tobe Shatsami, or the Sunguyaras. That Mingatanya on the Shatsami Bati and Sangajum Dendegi, Kabane Sumbaresna, Tande Jangoloma Zonga Chimbe, Gombar of Senale. Jubendewa gombarab senalia lung de karitana yarsna nyawa ko gi shubales na so yiga medo khajawa sergi khanjo bawa yiwo dinatela chebunga mete teta tobe wangi shabai tobe wangi jikden namda des tako sigduma gyoyinde ji nyembu shu yedenye joja ting so shu ji yedenye ti sanje rangi ane ma sung shaba ti khar sung du sana ane 배드 지 윤종제부 쇼지 다 통대야 아니 개면 책에 매도 윤종제부 여대 디나리아 강산배 설기 개비드 잡아 여대 봐 설기 강조 뭐 이용스 그저 지 이일 태부 쇼지 여배 있느냐 디 유주도 컨디션스나 유랑금원에 매봐 또배왕 샤점 지르다스 대다 또배왕 샤바이 또배왕 지된 남다 됐네 다 민기 탄이 원기 샤점 그 토네 아니 Chukanda Kainea, the Jogo, you have a Jotu, Minga Tani Ungi, you have a Jogo res, what is Sungia Imber, the Dubjechik Tira.
No. And so we had those 4 reasons to establish that there is nothing that exists inherently. In other words, all phenomena are non-existent inherently. That doesn't really work in English, does it? You have to say nothing exists inherently. So those 4 reasons. Then, so how do they exist? They exist through the force of names and through the force of terms and conventions and conceptual mind. So now, where did the Buddha teach that then? So in answer to that, there is, in fact, there's a quote in the in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to the Madhyamaka-Vatara, which is called the Komparapsel, illuminating the intention. So he quotes from a sutra. He quotes a passage from a sutra called the Questions of Upali, and so there's a verse there where the Buddha says that all of the beautiful places with parks and flower gardens and mansions with golden roofs and so forth, all of these beautiful places, all of these beautiful objects, wonderful objects, none of them, he said, none of them exist from their own side. They're all posited through the force of the conceptual mind. And in fact, that's something which applies to everything. Everything is posited by the conceptual mind. So with those very, I don't know, maybe it didn't come out so well in the translation, but anyway, the original text is very beautiful, very beautifully put, and also containing this very, very profound meaning that everything which exists exists through the force of conception, and nothing exists from its own side. No.
dakshi pungso la tenne ane kansas tazam chires dakshi ngune tadon ni yoma tenne tazam chires wa dus che sung do was ko peji de jan yana chobal tenne singda tabatar singda yana chodon tenne singda tabatar ane pungbu chodon la tenne kansas shagres.
And then for this idea that everything exists depending upon imputation. That everything is imputed dependently. That's the best way. Yeah, because if I say independence, then it sounds like wrong meaning. So everything is imputed dependently. So for this there is a scripture which is well known to the Hira systems, and so what that says is that what that sutra says is that just like a cart is imputed depending upon the collection of its parts, also the person is imputed depending upon the aggregates.
Oh, that in the Hindu Yusutala Yamena, Yurangumene Yogore, Yamena Mingatanye Wangi, Tene Tazam, Tinini Mado, Grosa Yomare, and Tin Namakiwa Inza, Yusuni Len Mandebe, and Namakiwe, Chimale Metos, and Tamil Shin Bunanda, and the Sungut was Taco. Mingatanye on the Shaba Tella, that Nanga Shem Meba, and Tatilia Tachaptres. That Yunius, Yonga Catarius, what those.
In that case, if that's how if something exists, there's only two possibilities: either it exists from its own side, or it exists through imputation, by imputation. And there's no third possibility. So something which exists has to be either of those two. And since those are the two only possibilities, once you've refuted one, then you have no choice but to accept the second. And this is a point that's made by Kyabje Rinpoche in his treatise distinguishing between the definitive and provisional meaning, definitive meaning and provisional meaning. So he makes that point. No.
Taganashi Jermuchege Zawashiraki, Deva Sashi Tijanalaya, Tindesunguduas. Paging dinner losh and collectly. Tetar rangi ngui trubala, Junde Kelang to Miruan Tonas, that Nejig Bashila Soba, to the Temberchen, rangi ngui trubala, any Junde Kelang to Miruan Tona, and Pene Chebe Jundelan, Suganyon de Melas, Chita Kandar, Jusangele, Jusangayon, Zobashemeva, Same Ngunyong Tony Nguyorvas. Penny Chevy Gundelani, Suganyon de Melas, the Yomar Latu Eomal, Tenum Mus Yunguyores, Penny Chevy Gundelan, Suganyon de Mebes. That Yevatis. That Yeva the condition you done ranging more Yobalan, Shadomerons, that Rangtini to be Gane, Rangune, that Yevatilla, that Shame Chabaravas, Mirume Chis, that Mingi Tanya Wangi Shaba Zamla. 민기 탄얘기 온게 샤바 짬라 대다 태도시 개랑버 차우스 예 양교진되는 예 디바르 친다면 몰라서 배저 코로나 시샤진되나 대다를 랑경을 주발라 군대 개랑도 메롱와 통나스 펜의 제베 군대라니 수장년도 매베스 열라스 랑경을 여발라니 샤도 메롱의 치르스 민기 탄얘기 왕기 샤바 짬라 대다 태도시 개랑버 차우스
As well as that, Rinpoche, Lama Tsongkhapa, in his commentary to the to Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamaka Karika, yeah, so there, so known in Tibetan as the Sashi Tichin. So he says that given that if you say that things exist by their own nature, then it's impossible to be able to accept, to be able to posit cause and effect. Then, and also given that we know from our experience, because it's completely indisputable that good causes lead to good results, bad causes lead to bad results, then how they must exist, how those cause and effects and so forth, causality must exist, since it can't work on the basis of existence from its own side, then we have no choice but to accept that how they exist is as mere imputations.
That 되게 슈자타가라. 아니 다 계제 더 리부 계제 규티체 계제 균레로다 계제 랑기 친이기 주베 띵네 적발로 검체베스 단ang 알아서 유랑문에 아니 귤레 아니 리부 계지 로 검시 다 딘징이 왕게 어떤 검시 지여봐 검바체베 대가받나스 랑 모두 균데 요 말에서 대가받나 민기 탄얘기 왕기 샤바 잠라 에네 대다선 균데와 균데 대다 조바 로라 레라부지 람사 대부지 용구요 말스 로라 미데양스 족수 니레네 멜라스 나말라 미테나 치말라 조바 에메토 냠도 로티 초수 장고소스 다 나마랑 친이 주바 균데 샤룽 미룬 샤룽 메바지 다 통차도 다 치마 민기 탄예의 왕게 샤바점다 다가라는 샤야 레슨 다 우주 겹제 로테 초수 장고 그랬어. 계제 네 양조로 계제 랑기 친이 그 주베 띵네 저걸로 검체베 대가바나 민기 탄예의 왕기 샤바점 대단 저걸 로라 미대양 조수니레네 메라 나말라 미테나 치말라 조바 왜 메도님도 로티 초수 장고소.
No. And then further on in the very same text, Rinpoche explains that that because of the beginningless habit, beginningless habit, there's very strong habituation with grasping at true existence, true existence, inherent existence. So we have that kind of tendency to think that the producer and the produced, another way of saying, the cause and causes and their effects do exist inherently. We have that habit of thinking that way, and because we have such a strong habit of thinking that way, when we refute inherent existence, we don't find it very comfortable to say that they nevertheless do exist, and so therefore how they must exist is by through the force of imputation. So he makes the point that again that there are only these two possible ways of existing. Either it's going to exist inherently, or it exists as a mere imputation. And once you've refuted the inherent production, inherent this and that, then even though it does feel uncomfortable to say, well, it still exists, and how it exists is a mere imputation, one has to recognize that there's no other way that things could be, and so just persist with that that conclusion.
No.
These are very important words to understand.
Korea yore 단단 디 아구시를 겨주 산데지수 겨조나리 주었고 yore 다 점불린딜라스 점불린딜 소자자니 마주봉행기 다 내주고바 통보 투용배 대답에 내주고바티 민기 타니 수샤그레스 데 민기 타니 응다랑 친인의 주요 말에 민기 타니 원기 샤장레 다 타니 수샤게 유나스 대군의 견사도 왔어.
So this is actually no. No.
민기 타니 원기 샤사데 삼 띵섭 당과지.
This idea that things exist conventionally, and that existing conventionally means they exist through the power of conventions, through the power of through the force of the conceptual mind. It's really something you have to think about very deeply to really get the point. And in fact, this is it's quite interesting. It's addressed by Agushar Gyatso in his commentary to Goya Samaja, the Goya Samaja Tantra. So he brings up states the question. He brings up the question. So before, a long time ago, the world was here. There were no sentient beings in it. So who was, so the world at that point existed through the force of whose conceptual mind? Because there was nobody there. Wow.
Oh, that the young Aranzolia comsichi genji legdo was. Oh, Tagi Randon to Sumba Mirigo Tower said the Kazan did sit never digi pengi was. 수 동반이게 동면지 수니 동반이다스 어떻게 핑게도 왔어 그 간에 현다지기 아니 민기 탄얘기 샤고고요나 아니 그 탄얘 왕 샤점데 현식 소문 거고도 와그 민기 탄얘 거 샤점 그러나 주정이 있는 민기 탄얘 왕 샤점 뭐 두번을 맞도지 그 현식 탄얘 왕 샤베 뭐 두번 말어 왔어 수 동반이게 동면지 수니 동반이다스 대가랑이 찍 땡기 둘라 단대 저름 찍 자실 찍쟁기 공부 대가랑이 유춘이래네 만대배 아니 랑동을 투버티 메인드 다그 유연이 여버래 다 타녀 왕기 여버지 인지미지 타녀 다니 신다지 디티데 타녀 따도 고 말스 배는 알아서 쪽지도디 배는 알아서 강바디나래 단단 알아서 디 쪽지스 타녀 따그래 알아서 진짜도 죄자 소나 양 강바데 동바래 뒤 쪽지들 하디야래 쪽지들 타녀 왕기 샤정 예인바래 딩안조 추용의 타녀 왕기 샤부 차기 요다 만족 강배 출로 친산이 그 타녀 왕기 샤부 많이 버차고 민도 왔어 어떻게 내가 데려도 왔어.
So this is really quite quite important, very important actually. So this is actually links back to this point that I raised in I mentioned a passage from one of the scriptures where it says that form isn't made empty by emptiness. Form itself is empty. So what that means is actually sort of what follows from that, or what that implies, is that things are not made mere imputations by somebody coming along and imputing on it. It's merely imputed from the very moment that it comes into existence. And so, then again, remember what Jhado Rinpoche said, Lama Tsongkhapa, that there's only two ways a thing could possibly exist. Either it must exist from its own side, or it exists as a mere imputation. So when you understand that it doesn't exist from its own side, then there's no choice but for it to exist as a mere imputation. And existing as a mere imputation isn't something that happens to it because some conceptual mind comes along, imputes on it, like it comes into existence and then it's imputed. From the very moment that it comes into existence, it's a mere imputation. So otherwise, the kind of problem that we would have to face is, so we're sitting here and we have all of these tables and maybe in front of us, and maybe we don't have any problem with them being mere imputations. But then, if they're mere imputations, and to be a mere imputation, you need a mind that's imputing on it. Then when we all leave the room and there's nobody here, then it looks like the tables would disappear. But that doesn't happen, does it?
Oh, that do.
Maybe they do.
That
So anyway, that will do for the moment, and then we'll go on with the text. So we're at verse 7. Not finding my father when sought is in fact finding my mother. My father is found in my mother's lap. That's how these kind parents save their child, I am told.
다 파견데 가상탕부터 동시 처전이야. 그거였어. 슈베이마스. 다 동시 처전데 랑문의 두바레다 말에. 수소 랑문의 두바레다 말에. 안 제바 제 윤두. 아니 땡중고 따라 때네. 수소 랑문의 마투바티 다 녀버어 왔어. 수소 랑문의 마투바티 마겐데르 왔어. 티 가르스나 파견 자베 동시 처전데 아니 now that the true mututane pagan zene and zayundu and pagangi dongshi chujenti and now that the rangon trube tongbati and tine tenjung taltene nyayonga inza pagan zavene manye pagi manye de magenti nyechungs manye pati magenya ba ko indu wes pagan zave and rangon trube manye ba tagarang and the Magenya Teresias, the Indu, Ame Pane, Paganebe said the Carasna, and Ame Pane said the Paganebe said the Tinjun Casa, Tombe, Randanle, and the Kandar Diningo, Chigging, but the Duare. Oh, the Mani do Mochi, Carasana, Tomba Nigi, Dilashana Dire. 단데디 아메빠네 파게니 녀베스 동반이 숙소스 단주나 근데 샤라니는 동반이 숙소스 랑원의 주베 동반 인자 깨나조를 주베 아니 수감 파겐디 다 유튜브디 차바르 대인도 군인이 베디 파르수르나 신민도 아무 코난 그 빵가라 파겐라 여버레샤 가르스는 동반 얘기 랑신레 숙소 땡중 쳐되게 여여를 하셨어. 수소 땡중 쳐커라 동반이게 란단을 야 샤바지 하셨어. 동이 달래라도 껴지 하셨어.
바기 카스터.
다 된대지 인도 에네 파만 팅첸기 붕아 쪽게스 다 나지 단일래 에네 다 lungbe tanda bujung but den xiang ton da je ge tan yin lungde de da gyo ya ge ro dus gyo kes
아마 진진 뭔가 좁게
aman tenjing gi phunga gyo dan de tus res
다니엘에 Okay, so
na pama tenjing de dong da tenjung
no la
dong ba tenjung dong da tenjung
no
ma gen de dong ba che da pama di tenjung de che
no
ten jobs
no yeah, so so now remember from before when it says my father, so the father is the thing which is empty. So it's in a way it's like so with the father being the thing which is empty, and then the mother being emptiness itself. Then it's like, you know, the father is dependent arising, and the mother is emptiness. So they're like the two truths. So okay, so anyway, let's go back to that point. The father refers to the thing which is empty, the Dongshi Churchin, so the thing which has the basis of the emptiness, or the basis which is empty. So when you analyze to see whether the thing exists in the way that it appears or not, then through the reasoning of dependent arising, you don't find the object existing from its own side. Okay, so what you do find is the emptiness of existence from its own side, that object. So that's when it says not finding my father when sought. So that's the what you're seeking is the thing which is empty, which is the father existing from its own side. You don't find the father existing from its own side when you search for it, using that analysis and using that kind of reasoning. So not finding the father, you know, the father, the object which is empty, existing from its own side, not finding that object existing from its own side, not finding an inherently existing object, is finding the mother emptiness, right? So then it says, so my father is found in my mother's lap. And this is actually making the point that the two truths are one entity and nominally different. And this is also making the point that really, well, you know, if you look at the Heart Sutra, so it says form is emptiness is form, right? So the second one, emptiness is form, which is saying that it's because of being empty that that a conventional object can come to exist. So yeah, my father's on my mother. So yeah, so in the way we can put this is that the thing which is empty, the father, the thing which is empty, conventional phenomena are like the sort of like the it's almost like the natural sound of emptiness. It's sort of like a natural expression. They're the natural expressions of emptiness. And so anyway, you know, this is again, you know, it's to do with the truth, this intimate connection between the two truths. They're actually one in nature, only different conceptually or nominally. And so this is also then when it says so my father is found in my mother's lap, so that's their kind of like very close connection. Then that's how these kind parents save their child, I am told. So when it says that's how they save their child, so that the child is, you know, the person, referred to in other parts of the text as the insane, you know, the crazy child, crazy because of being under the control of the grasping at true existence. So that child is saved by dependent arising and by emptiness from the two extremes. So saved in that sense, saved from grasping at the two extremes, the eternalistic stream and the nihilistic stream. Oh. The tomba insan the because the takta says that is and then you insan the power money but the tony toro the chujin di and now the dugu chujin di the chujin mini waro chujin mini do tomba yes amanyes power money power chujin ro teacher amanyero amanye to tomba ni goro tomba ni nesu koyundu tomba ni la tene ani tenji dawa chunga yo ta power yon yo ani ken shen la tenji tende yin ba to so ya power ni so ame pang ne power ni tende to ni so nya ba yin so tomba to ba la tene ta da ka so tende yin ba la tene cheda ka so deso pujung ma ta ju ge tan ni de ta ja su. So Geshe-la is elaborating on the way in which is elaborating and actually simplifying the way in which the understanding, discovering emptiness through the reasoning of dependent arising eliminates the two extremes, the eternist extreme or the permanent extreme and the nihilistic extreme. So when using the reasoning of dependent arising, you discover emptiness. So the understanding of emptiness has eliminated the extreme of existence, the permanent extreme. And then understanding that because of being empty, then the dependent arising is able to happen. In other words, that emptiness makes the dependent arising happen. Then you also eliminate the nihilist extreme. So because of being empty, implying that the thing is a dependent arising means that you eliminate the nihilist extreme as well. Right? No.
That tilia, tante jojate tachi kuchinyare. Tilia yawa kya sanjanzo gurchi, yawa dumbe gurchi. Shuina, the pebetsi tol sevishla yore. Si deux ne trouve tombar tons that donc je chenti deux ne trouve ma do rangon ne me inza si deux ne trouve ane rangon ne trouve da si deux ne trouve imba ha koyundu ane rangon ne trouve tomba imba de tonsons si deux ne trouve tombar tons dong xin du naes dong na yang dong je chenti ka ge me doa dong je chenti duga 때 추천 매배 춘이 양가와 승인 짠이 요마르와 추천 지금 만레베 동이 승인 짠이 시절 요마르와 동이 강다 강이네야 수 동이 있으나 시디기 동이 있으나 동시 추천이 고도와 뭐 대인도 동시 추천 매배 춘이 지 매배 인장 동신도 나외스다 동시 추천인데 요구 요자 동신도 나외 땡질 코스 다 라운드 트립 동바 있네야 그 상해 나서 대배 동 나야 최디디 강가 도왔어 동신도 나외 땡질 코스 다 코스스 디 우마르 네베 따와데스다 우마스나 디르다스 따지 타니를 매등인 디 우마르 네베 따와데스 이양다 우마르 네베 따와데 양 따치니라 냠가메스 다 양 따베 양지다 체베 양지얼 스타텔리아 ngamda kyun goya meba zemsun kyun goya mebjires yang ta je ni la nyanga mesta ro chimbu gan to tourist deep emissions, significant. She turned it to a tombertons. Tom Shindunave, danger course. The Umar neve, Tawates. Yang Tachi Nila, Yamames.
Then on the same topic, the words of the Gyalgazan Gyatso, the seventh Dalai Lama. So this is something very clear in the Tibetan. So what these there's 3 or 4 lines. So what they're saying is, so when you understand that the empty basis, the thing that whose emptiness you're investigating, the thing which is empty. So when you realize that it exists in reliance on others, depending on others, then through that you see that it's empty of existing, from its own side independently. And then when you see that something is empty, and that so when you see something is empty, you know that though it's empty, the thing which is empty does still exist. So that anyway, that very thing which is empty, you through seeing how it's empty, you see how also exists. Because if you think about it, when we talk about emptiness, it's not like it exists, it exists in isolation. When we talk about emptiness, it's always the emptiness of something. We're talking about so in other words, there is something there that's empty. When you talk about emptiness, it means that there is something which is empty. So understanding the emptiness of a thing confirms, confirms that it exists dependently, that it's a dependent arising. So that, he says, is the middle way. That's the middle way. And so then he finishes off the verse by saying, so because of this, now I have no fear of these 2 precipices, the precipice of grasping at the permanent extreme, grasping at true existence, and the precipice of grasping at the nihilist extreme, thinking things therefore don't exist at all. No.
That didn't need to bet on that road.
No. And so the meaning of that verse of the 7th Dalai Lama and this verse here is really quite the same, isn't it? The words are a bit different. I mean, here it's talking about the father and mother and so on, but otherwise the meaning is basically the same. No. Mm-hmm.
Tandadi Umashigabeti. I had developed Umashigabetilla. Kana Tenjin Jungyoba, Tena Rawamigur. Diku Rawamebati, Tena Dani Yomais. Tiat Gaja Jojachiba code was Kang Shikanda Kang, Tene Junga Inza, and Rangi Yomaris. Kana Tenjin Jungyoba, Tena Rawamiguros. Oh, that Manya Bati and Magenia being said to the Chivachason. Digu Rawa Mebate, Tena Dania Maze, Digu Rawa Mebate, Jameg Mebate Marwas, can go at the Shibu Ketchmure, Tandanga Ransel me sati, Rangmene me, Rang Tsinigi me, Turn Tamar mess lover mato, Shikora mess lavio maris. Oh, Yoba Kaba, Jita Yoba Kaba maris, Ramoni Yoba Kabaris. And mess had there, Rang Tini Matu Tube, and you to the Yomar Tombara Severamado, she chose a mess lava maris. For that Tilia is Sebuti Hamawana, and a tune, when Kunzo Ganga Choga Yomaris, it captured to the Yungorwa, Kazangama Shuimba, or that the Gilu Lama Chik Sunyore, Nyangun Sung of Singage. Gilu Lama, Nyangun Sung of Singage. Nyengun Sumrap. Nyengun Sumras. Jerumbo Chiki Tumdu Chiki and Duba Ganga Traverse. Yabat Kaba Mari, Rangoni Yabat Kabares. May said the turn number Mavaramato, Jir Mesheva, Tanya to Mavati Sumba Maris, or that Tigi, Duba Ganga Shibares.
Oh, because oh, she's that day and she's around it, just on it also. May said,
oh, to the Nation Rocha. May said, ten number match every mato, Tanya to Yabakaba Maris.
Then anybody. May said it,
Ramon to a Mabati Sarah Mato Chigi and Kunzo Tanya Bichu, Mess Lava Maris. That did about
no, no.
that. This one.
Yeah, so then there's also a verse in the 400 in Aradeva's 400 verses. So there he makes the point where he also talks about how the dependent arise not existing from their own side. Yeah, so the fact that things don't exist from their own side, are empty of existing from their own side because of the fact that they are dependent arising. So understanding that they're dependent arisings means that you understand that they're empty of existing from their own side. So this is similar to our text here where it says, it talks about finding the mother. So then what's really important here is that when we say, when we talk about emptiness, this isn't like a total emptiness in every way. In other words, when we say, when you have come across the word non-existent here, then it doesn't mean generally not existing. It means not existing inherently. So we have to be able to make that distinction. We're not negating existence in general, we're negating existence from its own side. And if you don't understand that, then you risk, making the mistake. We were talking about this the other day. There's when you're negating, there can be a negation which is too extensive, or the negation which is not extensive enough. So your negation would be too extensive. You would end up saying that conventional phenomena don't exist. And then this is also explained by one great Tibetan master of the path, Nyengun Surap. So there, I thought there was 2 points, but it seems like there's just 1 point. Anyway, so what he says is that that like in very few words, Lama Tsongkhapa like cuts through so many knots, because he says that not existing inherently doesn't imply not total non-existence. It doesn't mean you're negating existence in general.
Me sayati ten number mebat remato tanya to mebati kayo maris. You sayati tanya to your remado. Rangun ten number yabati tenga maris.
Tanya de Yomayo down, turned on by Yoma Zuyo was being the Zambala. I mean, turned on the long singing Yoga Gejishio Maris, Mela de Zambala, Chida made a Gejishio, long singing Gejishio.
No, sorry.
중도 공마 쓰는데 지단 요마이 쓰고요 말았어.
No. Yeah, so there were 2 points. I was saying I thought there were 2 points. So the first point is, in this kind of discussion, when we hear, when you see non-existent, it doesn't mean, sorry, it means not existent ultimately. We're not saying not non-existent conventionally, just non-existent ultimately. And when we say exist, that means existing conventionally, not existing ultimately. No.
That's short issue. The Nangaranza Lama Chebet signal, Conde Ranshi, Duza Mebata, Gunde Tende Lua Mebani, Pinzun Game, Tos Chavai, Ludo Gondo Chingilus, the Yankee Taranabas, or city.
No. And this is actually, so just by the way, I mean, this is actually exactly the same point that's been made in that verse in the Guru Puja in the Lama Chapa, where it says, so the samsara and nirvana are devoid of even a particle of existence by its own nature. And then also cause and effect happen, what do you call it, undeceivingly, incontrovertibly. Well, then, so may I understand the intention of Nagarjuna, which is to be able to see that these two are actually not at all contradictory, but in fact are like mutually supporting.
No. Riksheki manye pata, rangshin meba, mebe tum, mi shebe, sung chigi, ga tamche tortes.
No.
Riksheki manye pa. Rangshin manye said riksheki manye pa sigres. Oh, me said rangshin meba skires. Tire mato mebe tumares. Riksheki manye patang, rangshin mebe. Mi shebe riksheki manye patang rangshin meba mebe ten mi shebe sungchigi gatamje tortes te karchaso riksheki
riksheki tonyu dobe riksheki nyegi maro riksheki manye wate ani shujende rangsheki mesla yores Riksheki manye patangs. Rangshi meba mebe tumi shebe. Rangshi meba te mebe tum martas. Chue tamje rangshi ki me selabramato, chue tamje me sheba martas. Ene kasar ribe cheba chebe tindegi tatigi ene riksheki kunzo chede manye baremato kunzo chede mebanyeba marbas that this word riksheki manye pada rangshi mebati mebete mi shebe sungchigi nga tamje dollars tushinenga ganga duba ganga tene dollars
Riksheki manye pada rangshi
riksheki manye pasingdi yang kejachi ko tumbu desen chigre tumbu desen chigre tandu tuden rishi sumana shinche da karsa ane chunyi sibe simu chojen kunzo chodi riksheki nyigi marwa yina ya masi ware mato meba siba marwa chojen meba cheba marwa o ti riksheki ngolya manye ware mato meba nyeba marta riksheki manye ware mato
yoba masi ware mato de meba siba mares
o tire riksheki manye ware mato meba nyeba mare riksheki manye batas ana shite rangshingi matu sne ti sun yundu rangshingi meba te meba ten martas
So actually, to go into the, so I found the passage from this what's called Nyengen Surap. So what he says is, so not when the reasoning consciousness doesn't find the object that it's analyzing, so that doesn't mean that it realizes it doesn't exist. So in other words, the conventional object is not found by that reasoning consciousness, but that doesn't mean to say that it finds it non-existent. And then also, so this is like like when we talk about the Arya's wisdom of meditative equipoise, it doesn't see the existence of conventional phenomena, but that doesn't mean to say that it sees them as non-existent. So it can't establish their existence, but that doesn't mean to say that it establishes them as non-existent. And then also when we say doesn't exist by its own nature, that doesn't mean totally non-existent. So what he's saying is that with these, these very simple words and these simple ideas, many sort of, what do you call it, blocks to your understanding, completely like freed. No. So maybe we can put it this way, that that reasoning consciousness, when it's looking for the object, it doesn't find the object, but that doesn't mean to say that it finds the non-existence of the object. Rather, what it finds is the non-existence of non-inherent existence on the object. The main point being that it doesn't find. The main point is that it doesn't find the non-existence. What it finds is not the non-existence of the object itself, because then the object would become non-existent. What it finds is the non-existence of, non-existence of any kind of inherent existence on the object. No.
Tatine sikje jema teren dosha.
No.
Niba tongcho la nyuan dendang kol. Nangcho che ta tongcho. Jingmi shimi ki ame shire. Chocho tenjung ki melon na la. Simba mitsu ki yoyo nrade. Nyomba ngandre ne tokjo mashus. Ta jingmi shimi sati demba niti sungu yore. Demba niti doba chigmarwa. Kunzo demba to tonda demba ni doba chigmare. Ya shimi sati ngo shemare. Ngo chigre. Ngo chigre doba tate. Jingmi shimi ki ame shires. Ame shire ama tedang. Ama tungni tedang. Yani tenjung. Kunzo tenjung nibuti 동다 땡중니보디 모지라 도바타데레스 아메시레 조조 땡중기 멜론나라 아니 심바미츠기 요요라데스 아니 요단 때와도 땡지레스 모지로 도바타데르츠디 요데버지레데 아니 단다 녀방한 데네스드 덴셴기 레데베기 아니 치바수수기 올로라 엔 텐다와디 독조 마슈그레스 텐다와들 제바 중요한 말스 모지를 도바타데 임바들 아니 독조 론도 쳐요 말스 독조 마슈
독조 쳐요 말스
독조 쳐요 말스 세치레다
독조 마슈가 제바 마주었어 그러면 독조 쳐요
지민시민 근데 아미시레세티 지민시미 아미시레세티
아메시레스인데 동반이기 랑신티체 아니 땡중거 랑신티체 제 동바다 땡중이기 랑신티 아니 노바타데 모지레스 모지로 노바타데 다 지민시민 있는데 모시마레 노바지 마레스
Then when it says, so then we move on to the next verse 8. So evidently my mother's face, which is neither one nor multiple. So when it says neither one nor multiple, this is talking about the way in which the two truths, when it says neither one, so, okay. When it says neither one, so what that means is that the two truths are not nominally the same. They're not nominally the same or conceptually the same. Then when it says not multiple, what that means is in terms of their nature, they're not separate natures, they're one nature. Then so it appears ungraspably in my brother's mirror, yet a lunatic like me had not the slightest clue. So what this is saying is that even though that is the nature of the two truths, or it's the nature of dependent arising, the connection between dependent arising and empty, are one nature and different nominally. So that's so nevertheless, this is something, again, it's talking about oneself as the lunatic, the lunatic child, the crazy child, has not been able to understand that, has not been able to analyze that.
Tatila, ane, nambanyibuti, dogatate imba, moji imba, o tichene. Telia Rubashi Shishi Yungudua Deni or Deni Tigina and Nejig Rubashi and Deni Mo Tateina Nejig Rubashi or Tisungudua that Deni Tigina Nejig Rubati Karadusana and Kunzo Gicholia Pumbata Kawala Sobatendegi, Namdra Mambushi, Minda, Tateva Mambushi, and Chuni Laya Tateva Mambuchi Yungurves. Chuni Chigmato Yomarvas, Toko Chigina, and Kunzole Mingtani Jokes Mambuyo Nation, and Chuni Tia, and Mambuyo Dores, the Chigre.
Now here we're going to look at the way in which the two truths are conceptually different and one nature, how they have one nature. So here there are 4 reasons which contradict the position or the idea that the two truths are nominally the same, and then 4 reasons that undermine or contradict the idea that the two truths are different in nature. So for the first four, the four reasons why they can't be nominally the same. The first one goes that in the same way that on the conventional side you have a great variety, then also on the side of ultimate truth, the reality, then there would also be a great variety, which in fact is not the case. There's just, basically emptiness is all the same, right? Just a negation of true existence or existence from its own side.
아니 분방모순도 또 아래 아니 분배춘이 영모순도 또 그러베스 수수교 디 지르바스.
And if they were the 지단전에 지기비게 the because of the
분바도 분배춘이
도바치
있는 지기인 거다.
No letter.
민다 되니가 도바치 레저로 민단 된다니가 지기는 지르고.
No.
타대 인제 타대 처리가 제가답니다. 타대 인제가 민 타대로. 최단 최진이 지기는
No.
우리 분바도 분배춘이 지라이는.
So when it talks about nominally the same, then that would mean they're not just like the same nature, but even there is no difference between them nominally. That would be they would be one. They would be one. You have one and different, so they would be one. They would be different. They would be one. And in that case, when an ordinary person who hasn't realized emptiness yet, in other words, realizes a vase, then you'd have to, with direct perception, you'd have to say they realized the ultimate truth of the vase with direct perception at the same time.
That then Pumbaton, Nanjobagi, Pumbaton, Losu, and Pumbechunyu Gombal Gobayo Marves. Or did it? Bezuchebel, Chuni Dobichi, the Bezuchebel, Govameva. Carresna Pumbat Tonal Bezuchekas Cabinus.
So then, besides that, then, since merely by having a direct perception of the vase, you would also directly perceive the ultimate reality of the vase, then it would mean that there would be no point in, like making great efforts to realize the ultimate reality of the vase, because, just ordinary people just see it directly with their senses.
And
And then the next thing is, it would have to be that when you see the ultimate reality of the vase, for example, then it would be possible for that to lead to attachment and the other mental afflictions arising in the same way that when you look at a vase, then attachment and all sorts of other mental afflictions can arise. No.
Tadi jigimbala nejeshiti de sarche. Shitsarre.
No.
Da karesna. Ore tade na kunzol tade na sobayoba. O tidgarin rosarre da. Ko shedanjire.
And so those are the four like reasons why the two truths can't be one thing, completely like indistinguishable, one thing.
Da ngo tade ngo jingmai me ngo tade ina and pumba dendon javegi ta loji yorba o di pumba dembar jime in dondo chugu marbes garasna Pumba dendon jave lotigi, Pumba mayin kengi, when Shanda to the Dondo Chugumudua, Karisana, Kunini, Shikagarabas, Dementation Chagrabas.
Then, as for why the two truths couldn't be different in nature, so one is that when you realize the emptiness of true existence of the vase, then that wouldn't help you to cut through any kind of misconceptions in relation to the vase, because the ultimate, we're talking about them being different, right? Different natures. So that means like completely different objects. So normally to stop, the superimpositions about the vase, and, you meditate on the ultimate truth of the vase. But now if you're saying that the ultimate truth and conventional truth of the vase are separate, then realizing the emptiness of true existence of the vase, the ultimate truth of the vase, wouldn't help you to overcome, those kinds of superimpositions with respect to the vase.
Tatene, Pumba Dendon, the Pumbe Chuni Marves, Carasna Pumba Dendon, the Pumba Nidi, Moth de Chade Arvas, Demetation Rivas.
And then, because of the fact that, being different in nature would mean that they would be separate objects and unrelated, then how could you talk about the emptiness of reality? Because how could you talk about the emptiness of true existence of the vase being the ultimate nature, the reality of the vase, if they're completely separate?
Then the Pumba Damba Trube in Gashi, Mindbe, the Kyungur Carson, Kunin Demetation Rivas, Pumba the Pumba Dendoni, and Moth de Rivas, the Pumba Damba Truba Gabeki, and Gashi Chad Matuari, the Kyungus.
Then, again, if they're different natures, which means, unrelated, separate objects, then you couldn't say that the vase is the empty basis for the emptiness of true existence of the vase, because they're completely unrelated. And it doesn't
Gaya Shiti, Kakshiti, Pumbacha Gorba, Pumba Damba to Main de Silva, Pumba Rangon to Main de Silva, that Pumba de Pumba Rangon to Bakaba Kakshiti, Chato Marwa Karsna, Pumba Dendonta, Pumba Nidi, Demetation Rovas.
What did you
The Sumsaro? That then Sanjay Salas, Sanjay Pabe, Gula, Pumba Dendon Javet, Samachita, Pumba Dendon, Pumbatan. Moth de Jave, Samani Yorves. Pumba Dendon Jave, Lotagarangi, and Timatoji, Pumba Dendon, Pumbani, Moth de Jave, Samaji, Sanjay Yon Sigmaroda.
I know. Sanjay and the
Pumba Dendon Jave, Lochiche.
No.
Ya Pumba Dendon, Pumbani, Moth de Janegi, Yan Sanjay Lochindaji. The young Sigmar was.
Sanjay, you love Pumba, Pumba, Dendon, Pumba, more Tade, the lawyer,
the yoga, right? Because they're more Tarina. And also, then it would, if they were a different in nature, then even at even for an enlightened being, even at the level of Buddhahood, there would have to be a valid mind realizing that they are different in nature.
Gawai kunzo dembata tunda debani chidang gawache. Tang mochi.
No. So here's one thing which actually is an important point, although it might be confusing if you when you first hear it, which is that the two truths anyway, literally the two truths are contradictory, which means there's nothing which is both. Contradictory means nothing which is both, right? Doesn't mean anything more than that. So even though they're contradictory, which means there's nothing which is both, they are one nature. And why they are one nature is because, well, we had those 4 reasons, right? Which pointed out the fault of them not being one nature. No. It's like the back and front of your hand or the back and front of a coin. You can't separate them, but they are not the same, are they? So they're contradictory. There's nothing which is both the front side and the back side of the hand, or the front side and the flip side of a coin. No, it's like that. Ami shinre se ade dini ni so chena ane amala domba ni ya beke jamar
ame shiresme tongbe ngochi
no
amate tongni che tongbe ngochi
no
tongbe ngochi de
no
de tongbe ngochi tene chungwe ngochi o
tatare ami shinre so this in a way is like the first line where it talks about the mother's face, the Shinrei mother's face. So this can be understood as face, or this expression can be understood as face or like side. So that's like we were saying, you've got dependent arising and emptiness, the two truths being like two sides of the same coin, or the back and front side of the hand. So the thing is that everything which exists, whether it's causative phenomena or a non-causative phenomenon, each and every one of them has these two natures. They have their one nature, which is their conventional truth, and one nature which is their ultimate truth. So it's like they're two sides. Everything which exists has those two sides, those two faces. No. Mm-hmm.
Simba mechugi ota pezi thare ta kese tegan dos ta tindu simba mechugi yoyo ndala sate o ti gacho ne ane rangon tuba kabe gone tin tongshi chujen ti tin ne gaza rangon tuba kabe gone ane tongbegi ene ngeti ya shar yungre mato ducho ne shargi marwa tinza ducho ne ene simba mebas simba de lu ducho ne ngwe simba mebas gacho ne ene troba number chezum gi namke yingtabu en domane ene yede bajochi o tindejiti ene nyamba ngande ne tojo mashu se ne nyaman tinde yede bate ene shema chungsa o simba mechugi simba sade gacho ducho geje shigidwa
simba mechugi
da chuni de shikanda kangi chuni de megarwa 대인장 주초네 뇌심바메바 가초네 에는 뇌시야지 예데바티 에는 녀방안데네 인 딘징기 레니 도조마주스
And then
심바메바 사데라 텐데치
yes, so in the third line there it says appears ungraspably. So without grasping, appears without grasping, if we put it that way. So then what this is referring to is that when you're establishing emptiness, you do it by negating, not by what's the opposite? Not by affirming. You do it by negating, not affirming. And so this is something which this this lunatic crazy person have not, or the way he's put it anyway, haven't had the slightest clue. No.
텐데지레 디샤 다 디니 단 도르니모드나 데니디 모지라 도바타데베 인바스 다 딕템베레 계제 텐데디기 조제때와 가르르 데니 모지라 도바타데레스.
And so to summarize all this, the point that's being made is the two truths are one nature or one entity and conceptually different.
다이네야 군조 덴베 차디 돈다 덴바 마레 돈다 덴베 차디 군조 덴바 마레 가완을 했어. 다 이네야 디니 모지 임바티 산제랑게 가사 공백 칙칙 니 당바 인성주. 군조 동바 니투시스. 동니 코나 군조 데스. 매나민 중 예배칠 제 장주선대로 장주선대로 군조 동네 비지 담에 인사래. 군조 동바 니투시스. 동니 코나 군조 데스. 매나민 중 예배칠 에는 제담이다 바시노스.
디드송스 제단 제담이다. 디드송스 디탱도. And so this is like actually, a passage from the Bodhicitta commentary that I actually quoted the other night. Anyway, one of the previous times that we met. And so there it's also talking about the relationship between the two truths, and it's the verse which ends up by saying, it's just like the connection between impermanence and product. Those two are also, they're conceptually they're different, but actually the very same thing, which is impermanent, is also that very thing which is a product. So we'll stop there. Actually, I missed something off from just before, which was part of the summary. So Rinpoche, added on at the end, and also the conventional truth of an object is not its ultimate truth. Its ultimate truth is not its conventional truth. So even though they are one nature, they are contradictory. And remember, contradictory doesn't mean to say they're fighting each other or something, but that there's nothing which is both. No. No.
그래서 타데에서도 그냥 제바도 메다바 타데rel라도야 differentrel라도야 혼자 가와레서
가가다보시
그래서 타데에서도 가르라
뭐 타데다보시 거아니까도
또 타데도 주고도는 타데스 나도 타데가 제바 주베다게 메다바 주투고 말어 메다바 주베다게 제바 주고 말어 메다바 또 있는데 제바 또 왜 내바면도 나 똑같이 주고 진짜 타데스
So Geshe-la's saying that it would probably be useful for us to be able to understand the meaning of different here, the way that the word different is used in this kind of a context. So two things would be, well, like in the case of impermanent product, they're different. Being different doesn't mean say that like they're totally separate things. But then you need yeah, so they, even though, well, anyway, so product and so anything which is a product is also impermanent. Anything which is impermanent is a product. So they are they are one nature. Anything which is impermanent is also going to be a product. But to use the expression that we've been using so far, they're conceptually different. What this, to go into that more, what it means is that when you, for example, the word product doesn't express impermanent. The word impermanent doesn't express product. When you understand that something is a product, that doesn't mean say you've understood that it's impermanent. When you've understood that it's impermanent, doesn't necessarily mean you've understood that it's a product. So that these two are not contradictory, because anything which is one of them has to be the other. So there is, yeah, no.
Yeah, Judosha.
No. So Sangye Shindu Mide Boy, Dogunamba Shingla Chepa Sho Edam, Andala Kania Taya Me, Janjo Zenjo Rinpoche, Makebana Kituchi, Kebanyamba Mebaye, Kone Kondo, Awa Sho, Tante Rawe, Kore Shingande, Pendante Wamade Joe, Chenezi Wante Zingazo Ye, Shabe Site Pat. Engyuroji Jamba Pao Jita Jamba Tang Kundu Sampote Antishin Teda Gungi Jesu Daloji Gewa Dida Tamje Rabdu Mo Duzun Shepe Gewa Tamje Mwa Kanla Chotu Mwa Tagi Gewe Zawa Dikun Gyan Sambo Jeche Rab Mwa Gi Mime Zere Teche Se Jumenkin
Bonjour,